Why is this sharp and this is sharp, but this is not? Yeah, I do have very exciting lens. Let's talk about that and how this effect is made. AstrHori 50mm f1.4 tilt lens is very fun lens, or the results are fun. Hi, it's Peter here, and we have to start with the disclaimer. AstrHori did send me this lens, but they do not tell me what to do or what to say in the video, so everything I say is my own opinion. However, I do have affiliate links and also links provided by AstrHori in the description of this video. Why did I want to test this lens? Because I don't have this type of lens. I do have a ton of lenses, so I don't need any more lenses, but this type of lens I did not have. And we'll talk about the tilt effect later in this video. But now let's look at some specs of this lens. This lens is a full frame lens with micro four thirds mount. So it's not a genuine or real micro four thirds lens. Of course, it works perfectly with the MFT mount, so you can use it with your micro four thirds camera. And the lens is also available, now I have to check, with L mount, Nikon Z mount, Fuji X mount and Sony E mount. Those are the ones that I've found. The field of view is equivalent to 100mm on a micro four thirds body, so it is quite long for many uses that you could use a tilt lens. But for some uses it's just perfect, and we'll talk about those a bit later. The fastest aperture is f1.4 and the aperture ring is clickless, which is not my preferred thing in photography. For video it is totally fine. And also the aperture ring is in the front, which is a bit odd for me because I'm so used to having the focusing ring in the front and then the aperture ring in the back. I don't know, so many times when I wanted to focus I was adjusting the aperture. It's not a fault of the lens, it's just me and what I'm used to. The closest focusing distance is 50 centimeters, so it's not really a close-up lens, but you could do some product photography with this, which we will talk a bit later some more. The whole construction is metal, so is the lens cap, which is you screw it on, which is quite okay on a lens like this. You don't need to remove it quickly in most cases because this lens is not really meant for fast action shooting because of the usability, which I will also talk about a bit later. And let's what else did I have? Yes, the filter size is 46mm. The specs say that it is dust and splash proof, and it could be the lens construction. Yes, I believe that it is. Be aware it does not have any sealing in the mount, so there is no sealing between the lens and the camera, so it won't make the whole system weather sealed. If you have a weather sealed body, then adding this lens, the weak point is the mount. But otherwise it looks to be quite well made and really solid. And then the usability. It is a tilt lens, and like I said, I will talk about what the effect on tilt is and how to use it. But the usability of the tilt is a pain, and it's because you loosen it from the third ring like this, and then you can turn this the way you want. And then you start turning this. It's really hard to tighten it without, moving the lens. So be really careful when you move. If you place it to a certain tilt, then you tighten it so it will stay. But most likely when you tighten it, it will turn from the position you made it. And then you start, fiddling around, and all of a sudden you realize that all the markings are in the bottom, all are on the side. It's really hard to do that, and especially with one hand, it's impossible. So having a tripod and take your time, and then it works really fine. And to be honest, this is the way the lens is probably meant to be used also on a tripod. I did some, just walking around on street type photographs and some street scenes, and it worked quite well when I just adjusted it to a one position and used that type of look for my images. And then when I needed to do something else, then I just took my time and switched the tilt. But this mechanism or this way of tilting the lens should be done differently. It doesn't really work that well. Or the usability, of course it works, the image quality or the images are nice, but the way you adjust it is just a pain. But then, what does the tilt mean? The tilt can be used to make miniature photographs. You go to a high up on a place and photograph a square. That's kind of like the default way of doing it. The problem with micro four thirds though is with this lens that it is too long, so it's really hard to make a proper miniature photograph in open spaces because it's so long. Having this like as a, let's say like a 12 millimeter or 17 or something like that, even 20 millimeter could be better. And then when you tilt it, it could be a lot easier to make the miniature effect. But where this lens is good is product photography, because the focal length is perfect for product photography. And here's an example. I took this photograph tilting the lens. And a disclaimer, the gin company is something that I have invested in. So I own a small part of that distillery. Not a big part, but still just a fun to have a gin or own part of a gin factory. But remember, it's alcohol and drink responsibly. Don't get drunk. But a gin and tonic every now and then is totally fine. And as you see, this part is totally unsharp. And then all of a sudden the bottle behind, which is quite far away, it also has some sharp parts. That's because the depth of field has been changed to go this way. Usually it goes this way. This is a Batmobile from the newest Batman movie. And as you can see, this is where the lens is set to be like using as a normal lens without any tilt. And by the way, I did mention in the usability that it is really hard to get straight or back when you have tilted it. It's almost impossible to align this line with this edge of the back of the lens. But if you can do it, then you can use it as a normal lens too. And here it is, the normal use or the normal way, so that the focal length is like this. But then you tilt the lens and adjust the car properly. You can have the whole side of the car sharp, even though the back wheel is a lot further away. And that's one fun part where you can do this with, or you can do product photography with this lens. And this is why I wanted the lens, because this gives me more opportunities in certain way. And also in video, this could give me some really interesting look to the footage. And then let's talk about the image quality. I did not get this lens for superb image quality, even though there is not much wrong with it, but it's not ultra sharp lens, especially full open, like most third-party lenses are not. And there is a certain amount or certain lack of contrast in normal image. And so you need to add slightly contrast to the image. At least I like when there is a bit more contrast. It looks more natural and sharper when you add some contrast. The best image quality, in my opinion, is around f2.8 to f4, and that's how I used it most of the time. It's just perfect. You will get a slightly more depth of field, and the image looks a lot sharper. And also on a lens like this, it's really important how the unsharp areas looks, because it is a different way. If you tilt the lens, you will shift the depth of field or turn the plane of focus to a different distance. So it's not like this. It might be go this way or something like this. Then you have the unsharp and sharp at the same subject, which is, of course, looks a bit weird, but it is a fun look. And I think the out of focus area looks totally fine. It's just nice. I don't have any complaints. So I'm pretty pleased with the performance of this lens. The only negative side, like I said, is the usability, which is a bit awkward and a bit hard. But then the price. Is a lens like this worth getting? I don't know. If you need something for product photography or miniature photography, or just to have fun and have a slightly different type of lens, yes, why not? It's $250. Which is not a bad price for something like this. If it was a bit more, then I wouldn't see it as something that you should invest. But $250 is just right there on the edge. It's a lot of money, but still you get a fun lens an effect that you won't get with other lenses. Of course, you could do this in Photoshop with Gaussian blur stuff and doing that, but it's not optically done. It's software based, but you could do it. And to be honest, would anyone see any difference? And what are my final thoughts? Idea of having this lens is good, and that's why I wanted to, so I can have it in my toolbox. And most likely I will be doing or using this lens in video and some product photography to make some fun and slightly different looking images right out of the box, so that I don't have to do this in post. I can do it in camera. And that's why I'm really happy that I actually tested this lens, and I get to keep the lens, so that's also fun. And I have some more tools in my toolbox now. And here are some more videos about third-party lenses for Micro Four Thirds. They have some special and some interesting lenses that the traditional manufacturers do not offer. And that's why I think these third-party lenses are really interesting. But hey, thanks for watching and bye for now.